All right. Let's bring it back. All right, how was that? Is it okay? Work? Yeah. That's good. There's a question. I'm sorry, I can't hear the question.
Well, my name is George, according to that muscle test.
Uh-huh. And you wonder why, yes. Okay, a couple things can be going on. One is eye position. Your head has to be up, not cocked down looking straight. That's why your chin has to be parallel to the ground and your eyes are focused down during the testing. If that's happening, then you will be more associated, more emotionally engaged in what's happening when you're talking. When you say something is true, there'll be a stronger sense of reaction in your physical body, and that's what causes the muscle testing to work. It isn't a mystical experience. It's a biological, neurological experience. It's really a very cheap biofeedback machine that you carry around connected to you, your physical body. So used properly, it will work fine. The other possibilities, and I don't have time to discuss them right now in terms of the anomalies, sometimes people will test weak to everything. There's a specific reason for that, and it turns out that's an easy correction. Sometimes they'll test strong to everything, no matter where their eyes are looking. And if you're strong to everything, that's another condition in the body that's happening at the time, and there's a corrective procedure for that. But even here, you know, I bet you there 90+% of you had the experience as you normally would, and a small percentage may need some kind of tweaking, in other words, to make it work really well. If you've never experienced muscle testing before, sometimes it can just be plain surprising. You know, it worked. What's that about? Because consciously you walk around thinking you're in control of your body and your behaviors and your responses and all of that, and the fact is mostly you're not. Mostly you have your subconscious mind running the program, both behaviorally and biologically, and you're just not used to accessing it and experiencing it consciously. So muscle testing is a simple way to do that. So, on we go. Not only do you have two minds, you have two hemispheres of the brain. And this is one of the key pieces also associated with the change process. And I'm going to give you just a quick course, Hemispheres 101 here, so we can move along. Most of you are familiar with the basic concept of brain dominance theory. You have a left brain and a right brain, a left hemisphere and right hemisphere. The left side of your brain is really the primary center for logic, linear thinking. It's the primary speech center, so that's where your words come from. It tends to be analytical. It breaks things down into parts rather than putting them together. And it just loves the order and control of things. That's the part of you that thinks it's really good to get to work on time and to get your jobs done on time and can balance your checkbook and all those things that are a function of, you know, ordinary life. So it's a good thing we have that hemisphere. But it's not the hemisphere where you have much fun, I notice. So you want to take into consideration the right brain, the right hemisphere. It's where your emotions are. It's where pictures are made in your head instead of words. It tends to synthesize rather than analyze. It puts things together rather than breaks them apart. And it tends to be the one that enjoys that feeling of being spontaneous and free. So when the weather's great and you could go do something really fun, that's the part that argues, let's go. And the other side says, no, we've got to get our work done first. So sometimes they compete, in fact, almost always, for your attention. And control of your system, by the way. The arrows down at the bottom represent this crossover relationship between the hemispheres of the brain and the side of the body that they control. For instance, the left hemisphere of the brain controls motor functions on the right side of the body, and vice versa. The right hemisphere controls them on the left. Now, there's a word down at the bottom, or two words down at the bottom. Corpus callosum is a bundle of nerve fibers. They're like, think of them as fiber optic links, millions of them, part of a very sophisticated commissure system that is a communication pathway between the left and the right hemisphere. On a good day, when both hemispheres are talking to each other, you're getting a lot of crosstalk going. That communication system is wide open. So it's really a bridge between the hemispheres. And when things aren't going so well, or you get stressed, as Bruce was talking about, the fight or flight response, what typically happens here is that commissure system, that corpus callosum, shuts down, like it becomes a barricade rather than a bridge to crosstalk. And so you will go into a favored hemisphere to deal with a given situation. It's not that people are all left brain or right brain. The research was very clear about that, but the pop culture didn't get that part. It's much easier to write about, oh, what are you, left brain or right brain? Well, guess what? You got two hemispheres and you're both. The issue is, in a given situation, if you learn to over-identify with the qualities and attributes of one hemisphere versus the other, you will do that habitually until that's changed. The ideal circumstance, obviously, is to have both hemispheres working all the time, to be in a state I call the whole brain state, because then you have all the qualities and attributes available to deal with almost any situation. You don't automatically go into protection in a situation unless it's warranted, and then you can go there, because sometimes fight or flight's a good thing. You know, you got to get out of there, get the blood out of the viscera, get it to the limbs, and get out of Dodge. So it's all right to have that happen, but you want to be able to control it. You want to be able to perceive your reality through both hemispheres at the same time. And this little tidbit will come up in a little while, so I just wanted you to have a working reminder about it. The other thing is, the mind is not the brain. This is a very important concept. Bruce alludes to it all the time because he talks about it's about energy. I mean, in the final analysis, the physicists tell us it's all energy. So you've got a whole bunch of people here and here are complementary healers, and you say, well, do you do energy work? Show me something that isn't energy work. Allopathic medicine is energy work. What do you think the pills are? It's all molecules vibrating at some frequency. You're just ingesting them or injecting them or doing something, but it's all energy work in that sense. You can't not do energy work. Everything's energy. So remember that mind can really be described more aptly than calling it the brain as photons of light held in an electromagnetic field. We're talking about moving energy here. That's what healing's about. That's what change is about. That's what the mind is about. The brain is the gray matter inside your cranium. It's like the CPU chip in a computer. It's the physical thing that you can crack open your cranium and you got this thing in there. But that's not the mind. That's just the brain. That's a different deal altogether. It may be the central processing unit, the place where the energy patterns interpenetrate. But you know, it's not even limited to the brain. Those of you who know about the energy field in general know that mind is not a function of just a connection to the brain part. There's some really important, long-standing myths about change that I need to address before I demonstrate what I want to show you. And that is myth number one. If you've had a limiting belief for a long time, it'll take a long time to change it. Boy, that's a common one. I got so many people say, oh, it's so deeply embedded, Rob. You know, I've had this belief for 35 years, and it's just ingrained, and use all these anthropomorphic terms about how deeply it's embedded in your brain. You know, well, how deep could it be? You know, it's how many centimeters in there? You can get your finger in there and get one of the deepest ones. It's not like it's miles deep. What's that about? But we keep characterizing it in a way that makes belief change difficult. If you look at the reality of it, if it's photons of light held in an electromagnetic field, that's a different story. It isn't about deep. All right. Anyway, most of the time, changing subconscious beliefs is more like changing a document in a computer. The computer is photons of light held in an electromagnetic field. It's an energy phenomenon. You can't go into your computer and dig in there. How deep can you get into the hard drive? I mean, it's a little chip. It's the same concept, and we've really made it hard. It doesn't take any longer to change a document that's been in there for 30 years as it does it's been in there for 30 minutes. And it's mostly true with belief systems people have carried around for years and years. I've just watched this happen in private practice over and over again, and in the classes I teach, people will say, oh, I've had this belief for 50 years. I mean, it's just remarkable, just remarkable. I had one quick story about that. A psychiatrist is using a Psych in Denver. He had taken the classes, and he had one of his patients was agoraphobic. You're familiar with agoraphobia? It's the fear of being out in the marketplace in open places and so on. She'd had this agoraphobia since she was since she was a teenager, because she'd had it for over 50 years, and she was 60-plus years old. And it turns out it was an event that occurred in the eastern plains of Colorado. Her mother had taken her on a trip, and she was misbehaving, and so the mom said, you know, if you don't get your act together pretty soon, you're going to get out of the car and I'm leaving you. You know, today we'd be all traumatized by that, but back in those days, that's what your parents did. That's how they stayed in control. So the woman actually did stop the car because the kid kept misbehaving, put the child out, and she drove down the road. Well, not very far, but far enough to scare this little kid. And so she comes back, picks up the girl's in tears, piles her in the car, and they take off. Well, didn't take long before the little girl started to show these signs of fear of going out into open places. There are many places that are quite as open as the eastern plains of Colorado. I mean, it's a flat desert-looking place. So she had this association with this place and with this fear, and nothing they had done. They tried drugs, they tried all kinds of therapies of various kinds, and this guy, this psychiatrist, had just taken the Psych class, a weekend class, the one I'm teaching this weekend, as a matter of fact, and so he he got to a place with her. He just said, look, I've tried everything else. I got to admit, I just went to this weekend workshop. I don't know if this will work or not, if it has anything to do with it. So he didn't really believe in it. And then she didn't believe in it because she said, well, how can something like this affect a biochemical disorder? I mean, how can it work? And they both said, well, what the heck, we'll just give it a shot. They did. In that one session, that agoraphobia disappeared. That woman was out driving a car within a week, going wherever she wanted. She had relatives she hadn't seen in the area unless they came to her house because she couldn't leave her house for all of those years. So it's just, I mean, that was a wonderful story and an amazing testimonial to the fact that I don't care how long you've had something, it boils down to photons of light held in an electromagnetic field, and if you can find the address of that belief and you can rewrite that software, you can change the outcome. So keep that in mind when you're saying, oh, I've had that for a long time. That'll be a tough one. Not necessarily. Myth number 2, changing old behaviors and thought patterns is difficult and often painful. This is the no pain, no gain myth. You got to suffer, suffer, suffer first, and then you can change. Not so. Thought patterns and behaviors are caused by perception, beliefs. They're represented by specific configurations of photons of light, the energy we're talking about. Change the field, you change the belief. Change the belief and you change the behavior and thought pattern. So it's all about how do you isolate the belief you want to change, how do you get the subconscious mind to do the work for you instead of making it so hard trying to do it consciously. And we're going to be doing just that. Myth number 3, you need to consciously know what caused the problem in order to change it. Well, if I don't know what caused it, how can I change it? That's the mantra of mainstream psychotherapy, because they're having to change things by figuring out what it was, telling you what happened, giving you this powerful insight, and then making a huge assumption that insight is a sufficient condition to change. Now, that's what really turned me around after I got out of graduate school, because I was sitting down doing that really well with people. We got real clear about why they were screwed up. They knew, I knew, but they were still screwed up. Unsatisfactory, unacceptable. You had to figure out a way to change that. How do you get to the behavior? Not just through this ton of awareness. I don't know about you, I'm up to my eyeballs in insights. Spiritual insights, psychological insights, all these insights. And then you got to wonder, well, why does my life look like all these wonderful insights I've got? I mean, true. So the reason is we have been talking to the wrong part of the mind most of the time. So becoming consciously aware of the source of the problem is seldom necessary to change most beliefs or behaviors when you're dealing with the subconscious mind. That's where the power is. That's where the juice is. That's where the storage unit is for your beliefs. It's not about willpower. Okay. Let me give you an overview of the process that I use. And this is basically the components of it. Think of it that way. To get the job done in terms of speeding up change. And literally it can happen in just a few minutes. Establishing communication with the subconscious is step 1. I was never taught that in graduate school. In fact, I don't think they mentioned the subconscious except talking about Freud. And Freud, I mean, if you listen to Freud, the subconscious is a place nobody wants to go. I mean, talk about a deep, dark abyss of, repressed sexual desire. And you know the term Freudian slip? You know what that is? That's when you say one thing, but you mean your mother? Yeah. That'd be a Freudian slip. Okay. So nobody wants to go there because they've made it a horrible place to go. But the fact is, it's no more horrible than your hard drive. You go to your hard drive all the time. If you open your computer and you get documents out of there and stuff, that's energy. So we're going to be communicating with the hard drive here. You're going to pretest a desired belief statement. That's a very important thing to find out if your subconscious believes it or not. Like Juliana was very kind to come up here and give her attention to this process. And I had her say something that was pretty non-threatening. My name is Juliana. But what if I had said something like, had her say something like, I love myself unconditionally, or I trust that I am a wonderful person, or anything that she would desire to be and to know about herself. Then all of a sudden the rubber meets the road. Now you're finding out from your subconscious mind, do you agree with that statement or do you not? You may have done tons of therapy, you may have been saying affirmations and meditated for 25 years, and I tell you, surprise, surprise, you'll say something you think is true and you do believe it consciously, but your subconscious mind never got the message. And that's the part that really needs to get it in order to have behavioral change last. That's why so much change tends to be temporary and made out of lots of willpower. All right, so we've got pretest the statement, get permission and commitment to change the belief using a Psych balance. The balance processes that I use, I call them balances because essentially what they do is they create a balanced identification or perception of the left and right hemisphere of the brain at the same time for the new belief. And by doing that, using this whole brain integration process stuff, you can reduce the resistance to internalizing a new belief very quickly without all that effort and struggle. And the permission and commitment thing is really important. I've noticed in conferences I've attended for energy psychology, as an example, many of the processes make huge assumptions that if you have something that looks like it needs to be fixed, it actually represents something that's broken. I don't know about you, but a lot of times whatever you call broken is a messenger. You know, that message is there to that pain or difficulty or whatever you call dysfunction is there to teach you something, and you kill the messenger. So I found that it's much wiser to find out from the subconscious. It's even a good idea to do what you're talking about consciously before you do it. It saves you a lot of grief later on, and you don't have to get the proverbial 2x4 returning to get your attention because you managed to get a symptom to go away. This isn't about treating symptoms. It's about the cause of the symptoms. And then we'll do a balance, which is the process for change using whole brain integration of some kind or another, different varieties of that. We'll post-test the belief statement because it gives you a physical muscle response that's going to be different than in the beginning. So you have an objective way to measure a subjective change. You don't just say, well, how do you feel? And you go, well, fine, you look good. All right, see you next week. It's not that. You know before you leave the interaction whether that belief resides in your subconscious or not. So there's a way to know it for sure. And then celebrate the change, and that's my favorite part. So we'll be doing that. Okay. So, let's see. I want you to take a look at some of these messages. What I did was I distilled some of the key messages that over the years of doing psychotherapy, I found that many people internalize from their childhood. You'll never amount to anything. You're worthless. You're not smart enough. No matter how hard you try, it's never good enough. Money's hard to come by and hard to keep. You don't deserve to succeed. No one will ever love you. And Bruce's favorite, you're going to get cancer because it's genetic. This one, at the bottom, of course, you can make generic, which is you're going to get whatever disease you're predisposed to because it's going to get passed along in your family. So it doesn't. I'm just putting it out there to let you know that it doesn't matter what disease you put in this category of cancer. It's the same notion that I'm helpless and the situation is hopeless. I'm just going to get what I'm getting passed along. So these may be some of the messages that you got. And the question is, what if you could change them? What if you could have anything on this list? What if anything on this list could be true for you? What I'm going to ask next is, I'm going to ask somebody else to come back up to the stage, and I'm going to facilitate a process, first of all, to discover whether the belief that seems desirable to you is currently true in your subconscious, and if it isn't, then I'm going to facilitate a process to make it so. It'll take just a few minutes to do that. And so what I'd like you to do is just read down this list, and if one of these beliefs calls to you and just says, boy, I want that. It may not be true right now, I'm not sure, but I'd be willing to come up here to make sure. Would you like, you have one? Okay. Come on up. Yeah.
If I get this one, I might actually be able to finish my PhD.
And which is that?
I deserve happiness and success in my life.
I deserve happiness and success. And your name is?
Karen.
Karen. Okay, Karen, I'm going to have you come over here, please. Like about so. And I'm going to have you put your arm out. We're going to do a little muscle testing together. Can I have you turn this way just a bit? Thank you. With your chin parallel to the ground, your eyes focused down and open. I'm going to press down on your arm. I want you to be strong if you can. You ready?
Okay.
Be strong. Okay. So we're going to do what we did initially to establish communication, because I haven't gotten a weak signal, so I don't know what that's like in Karen's system. So I want you to say out loud, my name is Karen.
My name is Karen.
Be strong, Karen. Good. Say, my name is Frank. Be a guy named Frank.
My name is Frank.
Strong, Frank. Okay, can you feel a difference in that? Okay. I'm not pressing hard. I don't want to press hard. I'm not trying to make this dramatic. I'm just trying to press hard enough that she can tell when the muscle locks in place and when it unlocks. So we're getting a very clear signal here. Just for fun, I want you to do in your mind silently, repeat the word yes. Hear that over and over in your head. And be strong as I press. Okay, repeat the word no over and over. And again, be strong as I press. Good, you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Big difference. Okay.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do is we're going to make this a little juicier now. We're going to have Karen actually say her desired statement out loud. We're going to test it against what the subconscious mind currently has residing in there as a set of beliefs and see if she has any beliefs that support that. She may actually not believe it consciously. It's possible she could already believe it subconsciously, and we don't know that until we test. So if you put your arm out again, I'm going to have you say your statement out loud, which is, I deserve happiness and success in my life. Look down and say that like you mean it.
Okay. I deserve happiness happiness and success in my life.
And be real strong. Oh, nice try. Please, God, make it work. That's about wanting it with all your heart and soul, but not having the program to support it. And that's what I mean. You know, you think, oh, geez, I tried it, and I want that, and I'm really desirous, and oh, I'm all lined up, and your subconscious says, sorry, you know, no software for that one. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate a change process, and this is different than teaching it, so please forgive me in terms of not being able to have the time to explain each little detail. That's why it's a 2-day workshop. I can't make that into this hour or so that we have together. But I'm going to facilitate this with her by going through the protocol, generic protocol I showed you, and we'll see what happens. So if you put your arm out for a minute, please. Okay. First of all, we're going to get permission and commitment. We've already tested the statement. We know that you're weak to the statement. The goal is to get her to be strong to the statement. Right now she tests weak, although she's really wanting to be strong. And I can understand that. All right, so I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. You don't have to repeat any of this out loud. Just listen. And then I'm going to muscle test for yes and no responses and so on, okay? Okay. All right, it's safe and appropriate for Karen to balance for this goal now. So be strong, Karen. Good. We get a nice, strong response indicating yes. All parts of the system are ready, willing, and able to balance for this goal using a new direction balance. So be strong if you can. Good. All right. Her subconscious mind just agreed to one of the several Psych patterns. You might be asking yourself, how could she know what that is? Well, I'm not asking her conscious mind. Turns out I'm asking her subconscious mind. And the real magic of this is lots of information is shared subconsciously that you're not aware of at all. Every time you walk into a room, especially if you're as close as I am to her right now, much information at the 4 billion bit processing level is being exchanged between us. So if I know what a new direction balance is, turns out I do, I muscle test her and her subconscious mind can actually give me a response to that because it can access my hard drive. It's very interesting about this stuff because I did it in foreign languages just to prove this to myself. What a trip. I got muscle tested in Mandarin Chinese, and my subconscious mind knew what this person was saying. All the muscle responses were correct for the questions that she was asking. So it gets really interesting in a hurry. All right, so here we go. We've gotten as far as doing the actual change process. I'm going to require a chair for this, so if you'll hold on right here, I'm going to grab one. Or I'm not. Oh, here it is. Thank you. All right, I'm going to put you right there, and you can sit down in that chair. Okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to utilize some of this left-right brain integration technology I spoke about. We're going to set up a system so that Karen's mind can maximize her perception, left and right brain at the same time, while she internalizes this new belief. This is different than just saying affirmations, and I'll explain a little bit about that while she's going through the process. To determine the best way for her to achieve this left-right brain integration, we're going to use her physical body because it's an electrical system. If she crosses her ankle one over the other, her electrical field actually changes. I don't know if you know that, but when you cross your ankles or your legs, you're really changing the field in your entire body. Same with your wrists. Any place you can cross the midline of your body makes a different electrical circuit, just like a circuit board. So watch what happens. If you put your arm out like so, please, and cross one ankle over the other, it doesn't matter which one, looking down again with your eyes, I'm going to press down. You see if you can be strong. Okay, switch your ankles the opposite way. Let's see if it makes any difference when I test. And be strong now. Ooh, you see the difference? Go back this other way. Apparently there is a clear preference here. Be strong. She's real strong when she crosses right ankle over left. And remember, this is all in relationship to this goal. This is not a general thing now. We're into a belief change piece. That's the target. And her subconscious mind is telling us, hey, this is the way I need to be configured optimally to get this belief to be true. So while your ankles are in the position that causes the strength, I want you to do the following with your wrist. Put one on top of the other straight out in front of you like so. I'm going to press down on both of them, and I want you to be strong if you can. Strong now. Okay, switch them the other way. Let's see if it makes any difference. Be strong now. You tell me which one feels stronger. Go back to the other way. Be strong now. Okay, and back the other way. Be strong. Yeah, this way does, doesn't it? Like so. Yeah. We're getting a clearer signal. I just had to test a couple times because the difference is fairly subtle. So what you do with your hands now is just go ahead and interlace them like this. You can rest them in your lap. Here's what I want you to do. And then I'm going to have a little chat with the group while you're doing it. I'm going to have you close your eyes in a little while, and I'm going to have you be able to silently just repeat the statement. I'll give it to you, and then you're just going to repeat it gently over and over in your mind. And what I want you to do is I want you to actually invite any resistance to the idea, any other ideas like your statement is, I deserve happiness and success in my life. If you've got any other voices in there that say, no, you don't, you never did, you never will, all that stuff, rather than try to push them away or make them go away, I actually want you to invite them in. Say, okay, come on, come on, come on, come on, because it's an educational process. You're going to be saying this statement to this resistance until the resistance just disappears. So until you feel either a mental, emotional, or physical change, keep your eyes closed and keep saying the statement to yourself. When you feel that shift, I want you to open your eyes and we'll do the next part of the process.
Okay.
Deal? And I'll amuse everybody out here while you do this. Okay. So I want you to close your eyes, silently begin to say the statement, I deserve happiness and success in my life. And while Karen is doing that, I wanted to make a couple of comments about what's going on. We've configured her body, not according to my guess or my judgment about what she needs, but her subconscious mind, which knows how that belief is blocked. It knows exactly what software needs to be rewritten to make it so, and it's in the process of doing so right now. It's different than meditation, because most meditation is single-focused and all other ideas must go away. You notice the instruction I gave her wasn't to do that. It was to say the statement and invite these other ideas in. It's not prayer, because you're not really asking for intercession in some way, come please help me. It's not that kind of thing. You're just affirming this belief over and over. It's not visualization. It's not positive thinking. It's simply affirming a statement to be true, educating the parts that are in resistance, and doing it through the filters of whole brain integration. While in this posture, she can't think of the downside of this the way she used to. Left and right brain now are working simultaneously, and they're perceiving this goal in a brand new way that she hasn't been able to every time she's thought about it in a normal sitting posture or just in her normal life. So it's really interrupting the cycle of over-identifying with the left or the right hemisphere of the brain, which kept her stuck. As soon as this comes into a whole brain integrated perception, the belief's hers, and we'll test it out. Okay? So you keep at it until you can feel something change, and then you just let me know, and I'll keep talking to all these people about this. So it's usually this process, I'd say on average, takes about 2 to 5 minutes for most beliefs to change. Small price to pay for something you've had all your life that's been arresting your life and keeping it from being in that ecstasy, the picture that we saw, and really promoting a lot more of the protection and the scream energy to your life. So it can shift, it does shift, and it's not about me doing something, it's about her. In fact, all of Psych is really about very little about the facilitator and a whole bunch about the innate wisdom and the divinity within each of us. It's activating that and moving it into a specific area of intention and giving the tools to the subconscious mind to do the job that it is capable of doing with the proper instruction for doing it. Sometimes when the change is taking place, this is another interesting aspect of this process, is that it's not particularly visual. You don't have to visualize anything. If you're not a good visualizer, you don't have to make a picture in your head to make things come true. If you tend to be more auditory, you make sounds in your head, you talk to yourself in your head, you'll go there. However the belief is wired in that needs to be changed, that's what she's going to get internally. So sometimes you'll get pictures, sometimes you'll get sounds, sometimes it's just your body, your feeling. You'll feel the body change, you'll feel the muscles tense and then release. It happens differently for each person and different with each belief. Okay, she seems to think something's going on here, so we'll check this out. So unhook your ankles and your wrists, unhook these guys. Put your fingertips together like so. Just hold them there. This is equivalent to the save command. If you think about what she was just doing in a computer metaphor, she was editing the documents that kept her from believing she deserves this life that's going to work. Then we're saving this to the hard drive. We're making it a permanent document in her subconscious mind so that it won't just go away. It's the same thing as you always save your work before you turn your computer off, you know, so it's there when you get it next time. Same idea, so you can let go of that. Put your arm out to your side. I'm just going to test to see where we are with the process right now. This is a sort of intermediate deal. So just listen. This process is complete, so be strong if you can. Good. I get a nice strong response. You can stand back up, please. I'm going to remove the chair here. We're at a place where her subconscious just reported to me, I've had enough of that. I got it. Thank you. So we're going to verify it and see if that's really true. So I'm going to press a lot harder than I've been pressing just to make sure if this is true, that there's no doubt it is. I want you to say out loud, I deserve happiness and success in my life. Looking down, say it like you mean it.
I deserve happiness and success in my life.
And be strong. Yeah. If I let go, she brings like a springboard. Nice going. That's
Thank you.
Good for you. So hang in here for just a minute. So I'm just wondering if, Karen, would you mind saying a little bit about what was going on while you were sitting down there?
Well, I started saying all the things, you know, no you don't, everybody's going to be jealous of you, you have to feel guilty, and then all of a sudden it was like, well, wait a minute, God wants everybody to be happy and successful in their life. And if God wants everybody to be happy and successful in their life, God wants you to be happy and successful in your life.
Bingo.
And when I went through that process, it just, you know,
Yeah.
it was very logically based.
Mm-hmm.
If this than that, you know.
So did you tend to hear, was that a conversation going on in your head more than anything else?
But then as soon as I realized that, I felt like just kind of like a lifting, like a happiness type of thing.
Well, I think that I deserve happiness, and success might have something to do with the feeling getting to come in for a change. She went from the scream to the ecstasy pretty quickly right there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the change. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for volunteering. Okay. So, what'd that take? Maybe 5 minutes while I was trying to keep you distracted, so she had some, I mean, consider the circumstances. This is the worst possible place, you know, on a stage with people in an audience doing belief change work, and it works anyway. Imagine if you had the privacy of your own home and one other person to work with, and you didn't have an audience the whole time. How simple the things are. It's just been remarkable, my experience in the change work. When this work came in, and I say came in because I didn't sit down and analytically develop Psych. It really was one of those born out of a moment of terrible frustration with graduate school training and other things I'd tried. All of a sudden, entire patterns of change were just downloaded in my computer. I went in my house literally and typed the information into a computer and said, okay, that's interesting. I wonder what that's about. And then I just read off the sheets and learned the work that way. It was very interesting. And this was 14 years ago. So I was very skeptical, didn't believe in muscle testing because I'd never experienced it, didn't believe in these patterns until I could experience them myself. And when I saw the really miraculous changes that were taking place in short periods of time, physically, emotionally, spiritually for people, I finally just said, okay, you know, thank you, and I'll do it. So it's, you find your path and you stay with it because it works. And it's my joy to get to share this information with you. It's like Bruce and I bond because he's bumping the envelope of biology. I'm doing the same with psychology. We've been looking in the wrong place for the changes for a lot of years, and it's time to wake up and do it completely differently. So thank you for your kind attention. And if you have an interest in learning more about the work, Doug's going to tell you about our workshops on the weekend. Are there any questions before I close? Anything that pressing and you need to know other than... You need to go, okay. One last thought. Okay.
Is this something you can teach yourself to do?
Can you do it with yourself? Is that what you're saying?
Can you do this all by yourself?
Yeah, you can. There are methods of self-testing that are possible, and they have their limitations. So it's what's really good about it is if you have a friend or anybody, it doesn't even matter that they even know the work, and if they don't come to the workshop, that doesn't matter. What matters is one of you came. Then you'll know the work, and all you need to do is take 2 minutes and teach somebody muscle testing. If somebody else is pressing on your arm, it's just more objective than if you're doing the whole loop yourself. At least that's what I would recommend. A lot of people do it, and I honor that, but I would rather have somebody else testing me than me testing myself, especially when the issues are really where the rubber meets the road. Okay? All right, so final thought. Remember that your beliefs determine the limits of what you can achieve. As Henry Ford put it, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're right. Good night.